Bonjour, comment ça va? That's the extent of my French. Thank you guys, and ladies and gentlemen, for being here, spending some time to talk a little bit about the future of digital business. Thanks to the Google team from France and from Europe for all of your support for this community here. And thanks to the folks from ROOMn for having us. This is probably one of the more thoughtful shows I've ever been to. They managed to find a wristband that actually coordinated with the color of my shirt. That's attention to detail. And French fashion, I suppose. My name is GINEVAN. I work on the Android enterprise team at Google, working with a lot of our large customers and a lot of our large partners on making mobile solutions and by proxy digital successful in organizations of all sizes. And it's clear to me when you look at the market data that we live in a digital world. Organizations of all shapes and sizes expect to take their businesses digital. They expect to use technologies such as the Internet of Things and cloud, machine learning, and mobile to not only help their own businesses, but ultimately compete in the global market. These trends are happening now. 78% of businesses surveyed by Accenture say they expect to become a digital organization in the next 3 years. And 42% of CEOs in a Gartner survey said that they've already begun that transformation. So the future is here. Why should we go digital? Why is this something that I should care about as an IT practitioner or as a business line manager? Why is this important? Well, one reason is that organizations need to deliver dynamic customer experiences. We need to be where our customers are. 75% of folks in a Salesforce survey said that they expect to get the same customer experience, whether they're engaging with a brand in person, whether engaging with that brand online, through a mobile channel, or through a social channel. It's critical that we be able to use these new digital channels that, in ways that where we may have only engaged face-to-face or on the telephone. Of course, another big push is around the whole idea of unifying data and unlocking that data to drive new understanding about our customers, new understanding about the markets that we serve. We'll talk a lot about big data in this presentation for sure, because I'm from Google. But it's worth noting that in a recent Bain survey, organizations that were using machine learning found themselves making decisions 5 times faster rather, than peers that were not already using machine learning. And finally, digital helps us transform the workforce. Not only do we have millennials, of which apparently I am one, with great regret, coming into our organizations, but we also have a variety of other new work styles that require for us to be much more collaborative. 20 to 30% of the US and European Union workforce is considered a part-time or a freelance worker today. It's 30% here in France. And 23% of US workers already work remotely. Lest you think that that is a US phenomenon, a recent UK survey found that nearly half of workers by 2020 could be working remotely. The freelancer point here is actually worth looking at a little bit more closely, because it is highly likely that the skill sets you are going to need inside of your own organization are not going to necessarily be there, and certainly not at the scale you need to meet the digital transformation demands that your organization requires. It's why at Google we've fostered a deep partner ecosystem that can help you roll those solutions out in your organization. But it also requires that you as an organization really work closely on enabling your partner ecosystems to be as collaborative with you as you are with yourselves. This isn't just a collaboration point, it's also useful as you think about things like big data and analytics, that you be looking outside of your own business as well on how to apply these tools. Now, if big data is the future, okay, what are the problems that we see on the horizon? Clearly, data exists everywhere. I can get data from my employees. I can get data from the tools and robots they use to produce products. I can even get data from my own customers. So if I can do all this, what's the problem? Well, 75% of CIOs believe, when surveyed by IDC, that they will fail to meet all of their digital objectives by 2019. That's a shocking number of people. Why is that? Well, conflicting digital transformation imperatives. I'm not 100% sure as an organization what problem I actually want to solve. Ineffective technology innovation. I don't know as an organization how to innovate effectively, and I don't know thus how to go in digital as an organization. Lagging cloud infrastructure transition. It is very, very difficult for you or any other organization to use tools like big data and machine learning at the scale of a cloud, at the scale that a cloud provider does. And finally, underfunded and end-of-life core systems. If your technology is lagging today, it's awfully hard for you to transition to the next set of technologies in the road. And so we'll highlight some of these topics as we go through the presentation today. So let's first start with how to define the right problem statements for our digital strategy. Because I think it's important for us to say that digital is an imperative. It's important for us to say, yes, we want to invest in these new tools. And we can all see from what I just talked about the value that they can create. But if we're not asking the right questions and we're not trying to solve the right problems, we're going to lead to the failures that show up in the IDC survey. And too often, executives come up with big, broad statements like, let's reinvent retail. As an IT practitioner, I don't know what that means. It's a great business term, but it doesn't necessarily align to a problem statement that us in IT can solve. You might also decide to focus on just a portion of the business. You might go through and say, let's make the checkout experience easier. And as a recovering product manager, I don't know how to solve that problem either because I don't know who my user is. So if I'm in the retail sector and I'm trying to think about digital experiences I can use to outpace or perhaps match my competition, I might ask, well, how do I make it easier for clerks in my stores to find the right information at the right time and keep the customer attention when they're in that store? Seems like a decent balance. As you look, you notice that as I've sort of gone through these examples where I'm saying, how might we go through and actually tackle a particular problem statement inside of my organization? And that actually helps. It's an exercise we do at Google quite a bit to help us focus and frame the problems that we're trying to solve when we're looking at new problems and products inside of our organization. As you look for these opportunities, it's important to map out the ecosystems that you operate in. Remember earlier that I said that disruption can ultimately come from anywhere, and lots of folks are trying to get into each other's markets. This is on the right-hand side, probably a little bit hard to see, is a map that McKinsey did of the automotive ecosystem, or what they can now call the mobility ecosystem. And you can see if I'm that retail customer and if I'm the retail customer and I'm looking at how to sell a car, there's lots of things I do, but there's lots of other players in this ecosystem as well in the value chain. And so one of the ways to think about digital and innovation is, who can I share data with inside of this ecosystem to gain more intelligence about my customer? Can I work with a fuel brand like Total to say, hey, how often is the customer going to the pump? What kind of gasoline are they buying? To unlock different and more actionable customer behavior about services that I could deliver. Like, hey, I noticed you've been to the fuel pump and that your fuel economy is low, or you're going more often than I expect. Maybe it's time for a service. Maybe I can gather that data directly from the car itself. Maybe I can use both to make sure that my car data is actually accurate. I can also use these sorts of maps to understand, are there disruptive points in the value chain that I myself can enter? As a vehicle, as a car car retail organization, I'm already likely doing services because I have mechanics, and I'm already likely doing finance because I help people buy cars. Insurance is sort of like finance. Maybe I can offer insurance services to those customers as well, right at the time of purchase. Or I can offer those services with a partner. Another framework that I find that's useful is what we call why-how lettering. This is a way to sort of look at your digital journey and say, are we asking the right questions? Are they going to bring the value that I expect inside of my organization? So how might we make it easier to find items in store? Why do we want to do that? We want to capture the customer in the store, make sure they don't go to a digital competitor. Why do we want to do that? Decrease the risk of losing the sale. Why do we want to do that? I want to go and have happier customers and repeat business. Why do I want to do that? Shareholder value. Generally, once you get to the very top, the answer is shareholder value. So you can start to understand as you go up there, and you arrive to that point, yeah, this is a problem that I might want to go and apply some actual resources toward. Going how allows you to understand, do you have a path to get there? Not necessarily what the solution is, but can I actually go and get there and solve this problem? How might we make it easier to find items in store? Well, I could make the data more accessible. How do I make the data more accessible? I could bring mobile tools to the table. I could bring AI to the table. I could use voice as an application interface. Clearly lots of different answers that I can arrive at. You can also go through this exercise up and down the chain. So you could say, I want to capture the customer in store. How might I want to do that in order to see if there are additional, more interesting questions or parallel questions as you build out what that digital experience is going to look like? Another kind of framework that I find that's interesting is using an improv technique. If anybody watches improv comedy, if I were to go and bring Antonio from up here and he comes on stage and I go, hey Antonio, how's it going? His answer shouldn't be, who are you? That kills the improv joke, it kills the play. His answer should be, it's great, I'm doing great and you're looking thin. And I would say, yes, I've been working out lately, which would be a lie. But the point here is that in brainstorming your solutions, it's a helpful framework. So you can see as an example, how might I make it easier to find items in the store? Let's connect every object in the store to the Internet of Things, and then use machine learning and big data to do stuff with that. And by the way, none of this will work. It's important not to only build on these ideas, but challenge them along the way and say, will this work? And if it won't work, why? And then answering questions along the way to say, well, this won't work because connecting a paper towel roll to the internet is really expensive. Maybe I can go and use those same machine learning tools that I was thinking about toward my supply chain management system. Maybe I can use those same machine learning tools to my order inventory systems and then surface that experience up onto the web. Maybe I can build mobile tools that the clerk can go and interact with. Or maybe I can go and build that experience via voice. So this whole idea of yes and building in your own ideas and challenging yourself along the way helps you come up with some really interesting ideas on how to build digital experiences into existing organizations. Now, as you explore for ways to digitize your business, you obviously then want to start to look for tools to solve these problems. Note, at no point in this conversation have I had a conversation about technology. It's really important to be focusing on business processes, either improving existing ones or new ones in my organization that I might be able to go solve, rather than saying, how can I better apply machine learning to my organization? Again, that's a really hard problem to solve because I don't know what problem I'm solving. Once you've defined those problem statements, then you can actually look at technologies. Now, the good news is that Google has a lot of digital tool sets available to help you go digital as an organization. From the cloud infrastructure provided by Google Cloud Platform, offering compute or container or fully managed cloud solutions, to intelligence and analytics products like BigQuery, to the platforms like Android and Chrome that help you can drive interactive experiences, not only for your employees, but potentially for your customers as well. In fact, we offer a host of marketing, media, and commerce tools available from Google that really can go and work throughout your organization. Now, GDPR is, I think, 77 days away. I looked at the calendar 3 days ago, so I assume it's 77. Compliance is a big concern for a lot of folks, including, or especially here in Europe. We at Google have aligned to a variety of different compliance frameworks, both in the US and internationally. We've stated publicly that GDPR is important to us, and we will comply with the regulations. And we've put the statements about that and how we plan to do that up on our website, both for Google Cloud as well as for Android. So we've talked a lot about the broad landscape, and we've talked really broadly about some of the tools Google has in the toolbox. Remember, we talked about those 3 pillars about why going digital is important, the first being delivering dynamic experiences. Let's drill down a little bit on that, on some customer examples of where that's happened. This one's going to sound really familiar because it was actually what I was using as my framework for some of the innovation, or exploring some of the innovation frameworks earlier. Marks & Spencer actually wanted to answer that problem. How do I make it easier for my employees to find items in the store and keep the customer's attention? And so they looked to Honeywell and Android to really rebuild the experience that was based on legacy mobile technologies for those employees. They built 26 separate applications that they rolled out into their organization that handled things like stock picking or update of inventory, barcode scanning, and the like. They actually built tools to understand how to better engage in the rewards program, walking up to a customer and saying, hello, did you know that have a lot of rewards points, maybe you should spend them, and gain better engagement into those loyalty programs. They actually built point of sale in as well. So if you go to a Marks & Spencer and you say, I like that pair of pants in black, their answer no longer is, well, we don't have it. Their answer is, well, we either have it in the store and it will be there waiting for you, let me check you out now. Or their answer is, let me have it be fulfilled through my e-commerce platform, it'll be on your doorstep tomorrow. All directly from that particular point of sale. Coca-Cola wanted to answer a different question. Coca-Cola wanted to figure out ways to make their brand, which is one of the most iconic on the planet, more interactive. But they wanted to do it in a way that wasn't going to break the bank of their retail partners. So what they did was they turned to Chrome to build a very interactive digital display platform. Any device, any display that had an HDMI input could actually go and power this interactive digital advertising. And then they used Google Beacons to understand whether or not a consumer was interacting with that display. In fact, people could go and get customized offers and other things displayed directly on their phone as a part of the digital advertisement. On the back end of all of this were big data tools like BigQuery, analytics tools from DoubleClick, and a lot more that allowed Coca-Cola not only to drive this really cool interactive experience, but really gain a lot of rich data to understand who and how those displays were being interacted with. Pitney Bowes is another example. They had a question which was, how do we make it easier to ship packages? And how do we actually make it cheaper for our customers? So what they did was they actually took an Android tablet off the shelf and they custom integrated it into a mail scale, into a postage scale, and into a printer, a digital printer that would actually print out postage. And I can go into the Pitney Bowes app and say, is this cheaper to ship via La Poste? Is it cheaper to ship via DHL? Is it cheaper to ship via Federal Express? And all those applications are kept up to date over the air. Pitney Bowes didn't have to build anything. Applications come from Google Play. They had to build the apps, I guess. The applications come from Google Play. The monetization actually happens through Google Cloud using a platform called Orbitera. And all this, these are all things that would have taken months, if not years, to build from the ground up. They had an existing framework to build upon, which rapidly sped up the speed of development and ultimately saved their users upwards of 39% on their shipping costs. So lots of very cool experiences that I can drive. And one of the reasons why I highlighted those three is none of these people are Uber. None of these people are up-and-coming startups. These are iconic brands who have lasted centuries, who are using digital technologies to really change the way that they have interacted with their customers historically. And so as I build these new experiences, it's really important that I understand what's going on with those experiences. I'm going to generate a ton of data. It's really important for me to be able to go and analyze it. So lots of people have said that big data is the next big thing. I'm sure many of you here in this room have said that. And it makes sense because 90% of enterprise data is basically unstructured. It sits in a variety of different systems. It sits in Word documents. It is generated from connected devices and likely just thrown away and never analyzed. And so what happens when you take advantage of all this information that your organization generates every day? Well, if we drill a little bit down into the Bain study, not only were people making decisions more quickly, but they were 2 times more data-driven, and they were 3 times faster in the execution on those decisions because they had the right data at the right time. So machine learning clearly has lots of benefits. But the fact of the matter is it's just too easy to say, let's throw AI at the problem. If your organization doesn't have a strong process around the generation of data and a strong process around analytics for that data, machine learning is not for you. You are not ready. And this is not just me saying this. This is Harvard Business Review saying this. Why is that the case? It means that your organization, if it's not generating data quickly and automatically, could be working off of old data. It can correlate against the wrong things and ultimately lead your organization down to the wrong decision points. So if you're not good at analytics today, you're probably not going to be good at AI. So what does that journey look like? Well, one example that we can use is Spotify. Spotify, who here uses Spotify? Most everyone. Cool. I use Spotify as well, so it's clearly an international thing. Except that now when I use Spotify, all my advertisements are in French. But the point here is that if you've used Spotify, one of the great things about it is they build custom playlists for you. And so they were analyzing all of this data about how you use Spotify, and they had no particularly easy way to do that. And so it would take like 96 hours for them to figure out what your custom playlist should be. And what that meant was that they were only able to generate 1 custom playlist a week. So Spotify worked with Google to build a cloud data warehouse and actually build streaming analytics that took that 96-hour query and collapsed it down into a 15-minute query. And while speed is important, it actually has value back to the end customer. What it actually means is that you now get 6 playlists per day on Spotify, rather than just a custom playlist every week. And that means I'm more engaged in the platform. It means I'm likely going to listen more often because I know there's something that's always new around the corner for me to go leverage. And all that's done on the back of machine learning. Ultimately, their goal is to become much more predictive, offering the right music at the right time wherever you are as a user. Airbus is a customer of ours. Airbus Space and Defense processes a lot of satellite imagery. And when you're looking at satellite imagery, one of the concerns to understand is that cloud or is that snow? Because snow generates a mountain and clouds are just puffy things in the sky. And so they actually spent 2 decades building custom software. And they were able to get their error rate down to 13%. Not bad. But in 6 months, and 1 engineer at Airbus used cloud machine learning tools from Google to reduce that error rate to 4%. Much, much better. And so that new system is actually generating a lot more value, a lot more accuracy for those that are using these images. There we go. Ocado is another great example. Ocado uses machine learning really across their business. They're an online grocer based in the United Kingdom. But one of the interesting ways that they were able to use machine learning was they actually applied it to customer service. When you're a grocery company, you probably get a lot of emails. Some of them are happy. Thanks, Ocado, my groceries came on time. I really like your service. And some of them are a little bit more urgent, like my groceries didn't show up today and my kids are hungry. The problem is Ocado didn't really have any way to understand what was urgent versus what wasn't urgent. And it led to real customer service problems. And so they actually took machine learning technology from Google and applied that toward all of their categorizations of their emails to be able to automatically flag what was likely to be an urgent email and required an urgent response, and what wasn't. In fact, they were able to further automate some of that work, so the happy customer who goes, thanks, Keep doing what you're doing, gets an automated response from the platform. But they've taken this a step further. This is a picture of an Ocado warehouse. They actually use robots to collect all the groceries. And they've been using Google machine learning to better understand the optimization of how those robots work in the background. What it's meant, though, from a labor efficiency perspective is they've been able to take a process that was 2 hours for a human, collecting groceries throughout the warehouse, and reduce that to just about 5 minutes. So lots of things we can do with machine learning. I can build new products. I can deliver new experiences. I can make my existing products better inside of my organization. The question is, can I use digital to make my employees better as well? And that's where the third pillar of work transformation becomes very important. It's also where G Suite comes in. Anybody here a Gmail user? Wow, there's a few people that didn't put their hands up. Okay. So G Suite is our commercial grade version of a lot of the products that you know and love as consumers. Things like Gmail, Google Docs, Sheets, Slides, which is what I use to build this deck today. But it includes a lot of enterprise grade tools as well, like document storage and search. Collaboration, being able to go through and reach my coworkers wherever I am in the world. Several of them didn't realize I'm here and started IMing me just before this presentation. Being able to go through and hold collaborative meetings and even whiteboard using technologies like Jamboard. And finally, being able to do all that safely and securely by putting tools in place that make sure we secure the data as well as the devices that are accessing that data. Just to build on the data security point, a lot of folks come to Google and say, hey, we're very concerned. We don't want to have random PII data, random sensitive data stored in Google Cloud, or certainly not in a random spreadsheet somewhere. And so we've built DLP technologies into the platform that protects not just the files that you generate using G Suite, but also new files in the platform as well. There are actually predefined content detectors. You can build your own, but we've gone and worked on a lot of the common frameworks like social security numbers and national ID card numbers here in France. So we can automatically look in places like Google Sheets and make sure you're not storing that data. This could be important as you look at frameworks like GDPR as well. Many of you may not know that G Suite can actually build apps. We worked with the New York Times to go and use App Maker, which is a technology that basically builds applications using data stored in G Suite. And they actually built an app that recorded votes on the US Senate floor as the healthcare bill. Well, we don't understand healthcare in the United States. So we vote on this every 3 to 4 years, and people were very curious to know how the vote was going. And so a reporter would record in Google Sheets who voted on the bill. And automatically on the New York Times website, that data was presented as the spreadsheet got updated. Lots of reasons why folks use G Suite. Some of the world's largest global brands use G Suite. But I think a common theme is that it helps them innovate more. It helps them retain the next generation of talent because we're offering a user experience that is very familiar. We all saw how many people's hands went up when I asked how many people use Gmail. But it also allows them to collapse geography. It allows them to work across the world, share data with one another, share things like product requirements, product designs, collaborating on those in order to solve the next generate the next generation of ideas and solve the next generation of problems. Auchan's a great example of a customer who's done this journey here in France. Their CIO has stated that they're the largest G Suite customer in the world. I don't have a way to independently verify that, so I'm saying that they've said it. But the point here is actually how quickly they were able to do this. In less than a year, Auchan was able to roll out G Suite to 230,000 employees across 14 countries. And the way they were able to do that is because they're rolling out a tool that users already know and love. Things like training costs go down, things like rollout costs go down. So I just want to have a couple of closing thoughts. I've had a couple of people comment here in the show today, and certainly this happened last week at Mobile World Congress, that Google, you're a consumer company. You're what I use to search whether or not Auchan's open right now. You're what I use to go and maybe navigate around Monaco. Why should I trust you to tackle some of these machine learning problems? And certainly, why should I use Google for my enterprise data? Well, at our heart, Google was born as a data company. Our goal is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. We basically do data intelligence for a living. We've taken what we've built, which is, in some ways, 7 cloud products that serve over 1 billion users each. And that's powering the same AI tools and infrastructure that you can use to build your own digital platforms inside of your own organizations. The machine learning tools that we've built at Google power a lot of very popular and common tool sets, like Google Image Search, like Google Translate. Thank you to the translators in the back. I promise we're not trying to replace you. Things like playlist recommendations on YouTube. Things like autonomous driving cars. We take a lot of these machine learning tools, and in some cases even the learnings and the algorithms, and allow you to apply them directly into the applications that your organization's trying to build as well. We also offer the world's most comprehensive end-user computing platform. A lot of people think of Google and platforms like Android and Chrome as the world's most popular smartphone platform or tablet platform or browser. But those same tool sets can be used to customize experiences like what I talked about for Pitney Bowes. You can build things like custom point of sale kiosks. You can build things like shared devices for healthcare, embedded single use for barcode scanning, digital signage. Stock Android devices off the shelf can be used, and stock Chrome devices can be used off the shelf to tailor really any experience that your organization can dream up. How fast you decide to adopt technologies like cloud is ultimately up to you. You can go all in on Google Cloud and decide to put all of your infrastructure there. Or you can use containers to go and move workloads from your own private cloud or potentially other public clouds into Google Cloud at the pace that you decide to as an organization. I talked a little bit about the skills gap around the digital economy, and we recognize this is an issue. It's one of the reasons why we have such a large partner base. But we also are looking to go and train and potentially even retrain workers inside of your organization. So things like the Digital Skills Academy to understand how to do digital marketing, Google Developer Training to understand how to build Android apps or Chrome applications, things like Google Cloud and Coursera to know more about how to use tools like machine learning or operate Google Cloud infrastructure or apply tool sets like analytics. And for those of you that are actually maintaining Android inside of your organization, we're building a similar academy out for Android and operating Android as an enterprise as well. So just in closing, whether you're looking to digitally market to your customers, whether you're looking for new digital experiences, whether you're trying to understand the data in your own organization, whether you're looking to collaborate both either internally or externally, we really have the entire platform necessary for your organization to be successful with your journey in digital. So I'm going to pause here because I promised the folks at ROOMn that I would offer about 5 minutes for questions, and they did match my badge to my shirt. So let me pause here. I think there's a mic kicking around. I'll see if there's any questions from the audience. Or you can shout. And we do have a translator, so if folks who want to ask questions in French, I have a headset and I can get a translation for that. Wow, I was incredibly comprehensive. Cool. Well, the team from Google is kicking around here the rest of the show. Definitely thank you all for your time. Happy to have conversations offline, happy to have conversations at the booth. Please feel free to stop by, get your Google Cloud tote bag, and thanks again for the time and attention.